Hello, Dorothy. Welcome to.
Nice to be here, Nairy.
Yeah. Tell the audience who you are.
Well, I'm Dorothy Atcheson, and I am one of the ORSC front of room leaders, as well as a faculty member involved with the new supervision training that CRR Global is developing, the training and the supervision groups. I have an American accent. That's probably fairly evident to hear, but actually I live in London, and I've lived in London now for, oh gosh, I think it's about 26 years, so more than half my life. Is that really true? I think that's really true. So I'm originally from New York and California, but I moved here all those years ago, partly because my mother was English, and I've always loved the UK, and in particular I like London because I feel like I'm a citizen of the rest of the world living here. It's somehow really diverse and just feels you can get anywhere in a short amount of time. And in the time that I've been here, I've spent more than half that time coaching. So I think I found coaching in 2007 with the Coaches Training Institute. And very shortly after that, as soon as I heard about ORSC, I went straight for ORSC because I knew I was interested in working with groups and working with teams. And it was pretty new at that time, this whole notion of team coaching. It's pretty much taken off since then. But I got involved way back then, and maybe you'll ask me some questions about that. But just to finish off, I live with my wife in Finsbury Park, North London. I love what I do, and I love ORSC and being part of the CRR faculty.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit before you did coaching, what did you do before you did coaching?
In the UK, when I moved here, the dot-com boom was just starting, and I had always worked in media, so books, magazines, newspapers back in the States, a little bit of TV. When I came here, I was starting to see that www thing, and so I thought, well, that's a type of media. It was called new media at the time, so I got involved in that, and very quickly found myself running web teams for various different organizations, central government, the BBC, company that was bought by lastminute.com was a travel company. Got to do a lot of traveling when I first came here. And before that, was involved in media, books, magazines, newspapers. I love words, and I loved being a team leader. But no one taught me how to be a team leader.
Yeah.
I had some natural relationship aptitude, but what was so wonderful about ORSC was that I suddenly had a language for, oh, this is how I could be with my team. This is something that I could bring in. And I did start to bring in to my leadership at the time.
Yeah, thank you. And I know when I met you, ORSC was just kind of blossoming. I remember going to this community event and meeting you, and well, the rest is history, but maybe you can just sort of share a little bit about, actually, Dorothy, one thing I know about you is this innate and natural way of creating community, because you had already created another community, hadn't you, within the coaching world?
Yeah, so yes, I think for many years I was known as the community person, really, because after doing the coactive training with CTI, Caroline Humphreys and I, we were assistants on a CTI course, and we partnered up to create a community of practitioner learning, really, where we would host once a month in the room that CTI was using 2 or 3 hour sessions for coaches to deepen their knowledge and practice their skills. And it grew and grew as a community as people loved to be with each other. And so then there was the opportunity to do that for ORSC, which was, as you say, newer at the time and trying to get a foothold in the UK. It was kind of bigger in the US. And we started to do the same thing, and except it was, in a way, it was really different, because now we're talking about tools for groups and teams and relationships, not just one-to-one, and it was so exciting. And you got involved with us early on. I was part of a steering group to run that, and you were part of that steering group, and we just co-created the most amazing events in person long before we thought about moving virtual with all of this, which to me were a huge part of how I got to learn ORSC, was in practice with peers.
Yeah, I mean, that is what you brought to the coactive coaching community. And what was different about ORSC was that the business was already there and the community kind of tagged on, whereas with ORSC, it was a true partnership. A community was starting to blossom. At the same time, the business was starting to blossom. And so our relationship, so our third entity, really facilitated that partnership between community and a business, and how does it support each other. Yeah, it was magical. I mean, I just have to say it was magical. And just for anybody who wasn't present, you know, Dorothy also set up a steering group. I remember clearly when you know, you came up with the idea of how we're going to do it and have clear roles. So just for everybody, when organizations are first starting, even at the startup level, there has to be allocation of roles. I mean, otherwise it just doesn't function. It was great. But the other thing I absolutely loved about it, it wasn't just everyone's welcome. There was we required some commitment of time and commitment to practicing and deepening the community's capacity. Not just my capacity, but the community's capacity.
Yes, absolutely right, Nairy. And you know, one of the things I'm remembering is I borrowed from the LGBTQIA plus lexicon of curious, or what was known as bi-curious, I think, at the time, to say that we were welcoming ORSC Curious to our community, which is not something we did in the coactive group. And the reason for that was because we really recognized that we wanted to be in relationship with people who were wanting to understand all of this, and not just each other. And to find a way of and we were so welcoming to all. So ORSC Curious felt a very potent way of saying, come, if you're at least a little bit curious about what all this kind of relationship coaching could be like. And I do think, by the way, Nairy, I wonder if you feel the same, a lot of people are attracted to ORSC because they want to do team coaching. And I think great, it's great for team coaching, but where I think ORSC has the edge over many other team coaching methodologies is that it really is about relationship coaching, relationship with self, the personal development we have to do for that, relationship with other. And yes, of course, it's great for teams and groups, but it has that holistic relationship with everyone and everything in it, which for me is very inspiring about it as a particular methodology.
When ORSC is very relevant in the individual self, and then there's another little circle between me and you, and then there's another circle between me, you, and whatever we create, and then me, you, whatever we create is another circle to where we sit in the world, and then where we sit in the world has got another one, which includes all of that, plus where it sits in the world. And then the world has a big thing about, well, what's going on in the world? It's a continuous dance. And you are right in saying that, yes, you get the team coaching skills. Yes, you'll be very successful as a team coach. And there is so much more for it. It will evolve as long as you're willing to evolve, and it will evolve as society evolves. It just gives you permission. I think it gives us permission to stay curious without any boundaries. We set the boundaries ourselves. Yeah. But, you know, I just want to go back to also kind of honor your journey, because, you know, yes, you held this mastery, this role of mastery on behalf of the whole community, and inspired every single person to truly practice ORSC in its format, in its full format, for us to get comfortable. And then you brought something else as well. So you also really encouraged all of us to be personally involved in developing the community. So it wasn't just, yes, I'm learning something. There was always partnering. I remember you were partnering with, yes, because the ORSC community events we were always grabbing someone saying, come, let's do this together. And actually, you're now great. Why don't you grab someone else and do something together with that person?
Yeah, so I think what you're talking about is co-leading, right? Like to have what we did that was, I think, made it successful is different people took turns holding what the event would be, and we did this a little bit with Coactive as well, but really with ORSC, was for the community events, was that different people would volunteer to hold an event, and they might try co-leading with someone else or practice their alchemy skills, because that's another training that you offer, that Lori Shook's training in how to co-facilitate. You know, so it really was a chance to encourage everyone to step over their edges, whether they're leading the session or participating in the session, to bring a friend, to really work on relationship. And the thing is, you know, these tools, what we learn, tools and skills, what we learn as we use them is that the steps are not always just the way that they are in the book. We have to find the way that it lives in us.
Yep.
And we can only do that by playing. And I think many of us feel a little nervous to go off to a client right away and play, although that's essentially, we're experimenting whatever we do with a client, you know. But so it just was giving that environment for all of us to feel more comfortable, get to know each other as well, because I think many people who came to the community events then some went off in various formations to work together also, to approach clients together.
They did, and we all became friends, which was lovely.
We all became friends for a long time, and actually I think the CRR UK faculty is comprised largely of people who were active in the community.
Yeah.
And that's like a message for people who who are learning ORSC now and want to take it further, like meet your peers as much as you can. What are the opportunities to practice and experiment with each other and make relationship with each other, because we're all from that era of a very strong UK community, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. And, you know, Dorothy, like we've also spoken about the entrepreneurship of the community. You know, VORSC, virtual ORSC, we did ages ago because we felt there was a lack of equity, and that was a community-driven initiative. And we, as you said, invitation for ORSC Curious. We also experimented where we invited people from the business to kind of sit like, I don't know, like a panel, as we brought in ideas and tried out tools to get live feedback as to the impact and how we needed to tweak it. I mean, we've done so many things, but I also want to come back to you. I know you have an amazing reputation because of your skills. We'd love to know a little bit about the kinds of people you work with. That's firstly. Secondly, the how you became a front of the room leader, and what courses are you leading?
Okay. Well, what kind of people am I working with? I would say everyone I work with. So in my one-to-one coaching, leadership coaching, or my one-to-one or group supervision, coaching supervision that I offer, or in my team coaching, I'm using ORSC in all of it. In fact, from the moment I learned ORSC, I've been using ORSC in everything, including in my own reflection about myself and how I develop in life. So it's been fundamental and foundational for me in terms of what I bring, a systemic relational view to things. The sectors that I mostly work in are the creative industries, media, the philanthropic sector. I myself, the industries that I was involved in primarily, but I also work in tech companies a lot with the team coaching. It's very appropriate for tech companies and project teams and things like that. And in my leadership coaching, I go across sectors. I'll work in banking or finance industry. It really doesn't matter to me. It's less about the sector and more about are these tools, are my abilities useful with whoever it is that I'm going to be working with. And about half my practice now is coaching supervision, the reflective practice for one-to-one coaches, but also team coaches. Because I actually think it's really difficult to do team coaching if you don't have someone else. Like, even if you have a co-lead, the two of you could have someone else to be helping you reflect on what's going on, because there's so much going on all the time, and that makes us better as practitioners. You asked me two questions. I'm still trying to remember what they were. How my journey to be a front of room leader, was that one of them?
Yeah.
I was encouraged a lot by you, Nairy, because I remember thinking, I love to do the work. I love to be with a team and and work emergently with whatever is happening in the room, because that's what we learn as well, isn't it? As we get mastery at ORSC, it's less and less about what's the next step and more about what's happening right now and how do we create from that moment.
Yep.
So I loved that, and I was afraid about joining and teaching where there were, there is certain amount of stuff that we have to teach. But because you encouraged me, I actually went for auditions twice, and the first time I pulled myself out and thought, I don't understand why I'm doing this. And then the second time you said, come on, Dee, we need you to think about this, come on in. And so I did, and I got in touch that time, and it was 2019. You and I are part of the same cohort of leaders, just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we never could have seen what was about to happen. Is that the courses, everything would change from being in the room to being virtual and global. And I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying that, because what that has done, and like tears in my eyes, because what that's done as well has expanded the reach and the potential and the possibility of how we can connect around this material and help bring more of right relationship into the world. And so I got in touch with the fact that that mattered to me. And actually the golden thread, if you look back through my life, is my career in coaching, certainly, especially, is that I've always been interested in excellence, mastery, practitioners practicing to develop their facility with this. Supervision is about helping people fly, practitioner communities is about helping people fly, and this teaching ORSC is the same. And some of the recent cohorts have had people all over the world. I think we had a cohort with people from all 5 continents, and that is just so inspiring, and they were wonderful, and they're meeting each other, and I just think what a privilege that we get to bring this work to the world and be in relationship in this way. It feels very on purpose for me.
Yeah, I feel it, and I know that about you. I mean, from the time I've met you, that has always been that. And what I love is that you always create space for all the diversity, because you're so curious and also, quite, I would say challenging, in the sense of not challenging for the sake of challenging, but really questioning why are we just doing that? Why isn't this person included? We don't want to be a closed community. What would it be like if we made space for ORSC Curious? What happens if we have masters and we also have someone on the steering wheel who's only just started their journey? How do the wisdom that lives in that new person with all their life experience influences the way that we see, how we don't collude? And also the vast number of people who've come to us, because you have a very broad reach. And so, that I always admire that about you. But Dorothy, I know that you lead geography, which is the 3rd module. So you've got the introductory modules followed by intelligence, which is second module. We call it the operating system for ORSC, because we introduce lots of skills and also focusing on change, how systems and the individual, the pair or the many go from one state to another state during process of change. And then geography is the next one, which is, I know you lead that.
I do, yes. I have 2 courses, and they're both very dear to me. So geography comes out. I love that operating model of intelligence. Geography comes after intelligence, and geography is all about diversity. Learning to work with difference and create from difference, be curious about difference as opposed to edged against it, to use ORSC language. And that's the diversity within ourselves as well as the diversity in a room or in a group. And I loved that module when I went through it as well. One of our most popular and often used tools, LAN's work, is in that module. The whole working with silos, when people are in the same team but totally in different kinds of lands, as we call it. So that's a lovely course to lead. And PATH is the course I came up on first, actually. And I remember thinking, I wonder why I'm on path, because we don't get to choose, we get put on courses. And now I know why I'm on path, because it's just such a beautiful course with deep roots. And as some participants of a recent training said, this course feels quite spiritual, actually. Yeah. And if you look at the whole ORSC training, there is a lot of references to Buddhism and Hinduism and Joanna Macy and all her work in climate. There's a lot of love in the course. And the path course gets into the quantum physics of things, the energy of things, and what really is reality. Do we actually know what reality is? Is everything actually more made up, more dreaming, And just for someone who has curiosity, like you say about me, it is true. I am curious in more ways than one, probably curious odd as well. Path is the course because it has you constantly wondering and questioning about, well, who am I and where does all this come from and what am I making up about stuff, and it's about the universe, and so it's a great big question mark kind of course for adventurers of existential questions.
And
quite practical.
Yeah, it is very practical, but also I love the way you just sparked up speaking about it. And we do know that we get selected for a reason, because somebody dreams us up, and obviously someone dreamt you up into that course, and it is a beautiful course. Dorothy, yes, that you lead both, because geography is before path, so from geography people go into path. I guess that transition for me, as we welcome on the introductory module, and the beautiful thing about ORSC is, yes, we have a timeline. It's an International Coach Federation accredited training program, so we have to deliver certain things. And right from the start, we are welcoming a system, so a system that doesn't know each other very well. All the exercises is about us becoming aware of who we are, and it's us becoming aware of what happens to us when we meet somebody we don't know. And at the same time, we're teaching them all these. So it's like such a fascinating training program because, And so the reason why I'm saying this is I would love to know the segue between geography and path. Like, how do you learn about diversity, and then how do you welcome them into this dreaming state?
It's interesting to think about the segue. In geography, what's interesting is by the time you get to path, you realize that in all of the courses we've been using the path concepts. We just haven't introduced them yet. So a key thing about path is what we call the 3 levels of reality, which is where we take consensus reality level, which is what we all think we're in most of the time, what we all agree upon as the facts and the matter around us. And we get people into exercises that might involve it's Arnold Mendel's work, largely, to get into what we call essence level and dreaming, might have people moving in their bodies or drawing or working very much with somatics and imagination. And I think students can feel a little bit like, what is all this? It's not practical because that's consensus reality layer. But all the way through all of the courses, we're doing the 3 levels of reality, because to be a systems worker, you really have to be able to navigate all 3. And we get stuck in these. So in geography, there's a lot of unfolding. And of course, in intelligence, there's a lot of unfolding. And when I say unfolding, it's like we make a gesture and the coach says, make that bigger, make that even bigger, make that even bigger. And that can seem like it doesn't make sense to people, but actually what's happening there is you're getting new information that's going to inform the issue that you're bringing, and that's the way we work in path. And so in geography, there's a lot of unfolding. Everybody doesn't understand what is all this stuff. We're moving around, we're playing, and it's because this is actually a key way of getting new information into a system, is to is to work in these three levels of reality. And I don't know, Nairy, I'm not seeing a direct segue about how I would say geography leads specifically into path, except that I think by the time we've come out of geography, we're a lot more aware of the diversity that lives within us, but that also, multiple layers of diversity in around us. And so then path is inviting us to go even deeper into that and to explore, where does it all come from? What is it all for? How do we work with it even deeper?
Yeah, thank you. That's the take I would take, and such a wise segue. It's all of them. I always see the ORSC training as, those paper people that you cut up, and they're all sort of linked up. You don't know where the end is, and there is no ending, because that's the story, isn't it? Even when you finish systems integration, and whether you decide to go to the mastery program of certification, you're still constantly in relationship, which means you're always having the skills and the tools you learn. It's always informing who you are in relationship. We're almost coming to the end, and thank you, Dorothy, but I'd love to know something more about you, a little bit like a personal thing, because I can see the guitar behind you, and I'm thinking, what do you get up to? The guitars behind you. What do you get up to other than ORSC and supervision? What else do you do?
Thanks, Nairy. It's interesting, isn't it, to peek behind the curtain of who the front of room leader or the coach is. And my personal life is all about relationships. Again, my friends always say things like, "You're such a relationship person." So I have a very wide network of friends and associates, and internationally as well, because I've lived internationally. I keep up with people. Linda and I have a very busy social life, so we are often going to other people's houses, our friends' houses for dinner, or they're coming here. I do play music. I have one friend in particular. We play guitar and sing together a lot, possibly badly at times, but you know what? The joy of it is just extraordinary. And about, almost a year ago now, I joined a steel pan band because I had seen people playing those steel drums, and I was quite fascinated by them, and I wanted to have a go. And unbeknownst to me, I couldn't have a go. I had to join a band, and I actually had to get on a waiting list for it. And I thought, I don't really want to be in a steel pan band. I just want to have a go, But so I'm going to go along to one of those sessions, and then I can always leave. And then I thought to myself, that's not like you, though. You don't leave things. Well, let me tell you, I was so captivated by, It wasn't one drum. I've got what's called a 4-pan cello, and there are 4 enormous pans that I play, and I find it so stimulating. So music is really important to me, playing music, fun and special time with friends. I live in London because it's a cultural capital, and I'm always going to museums and galleries, and I love food and cooking food and eating food and eating. You and I like to go to nice places for food, don't we?
We do indeed.
I remember last time you saying, don't tell anyone else about this place, Dee. We have
It's a secret place.
No one gets to know. And I love being in nature. Nature's very much of a home for me. I do kind of transpersonal courses a lot, and deep contemplative, reflective courses where there's drawing and painting and writing, and creativity is quite important to me as well. So I used to ride my bike a lot all over London, but I don't anymore. I'd like to do that again. I'm a little more scared of traffic than I used to be. But that's me, someone who just enjoys people and having fun with people, I think.
Yeah, and also a real curiosity to keep, pushing that boundary and trying something and putting your name down and participating and performing and inviting. And just for all of you, if you're wondering, I think one of the most amazing things that Dorothy and I collectively did is we went out for our first Christmas lunch together, or end of year celebration lunch. And when you're a solo entrepreneur, you don't get to do that. So we went, to a new tiny little restaurant, and unbeknown to us, Judy Reach, for those of you who might have met her or not met her, but she was also a fellow coach, happened to be there. Literally, this restaurant had only space for 8 people, and it was all coaches and friends. But from that idea, we sparked these, why don't we do a Christmas party? Do you remember inviting all the coaches to a Christmas party? The ORSC UK community did that in King's Cross. It was just such an unbelievable experience. We had so much fun.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I take my hat off to you, Nairy, because you are somebody who thinks about things like that. I believe that was your idea, and you know how to make things happen. Actually, in our third entity, when we were more active in the community, one of the things I would have said about me and you that was particularly special is that we both know how to make things happen and have the consistency to stay with it and follow through and keep people involved. And you're also a great connector in many relationships and looking for ways to keep things going. But if you have Nairy and Dee on your team, that the I's will be dotted and the T's will be crossed.
Yes.
Have fun.
Lots of fun. Okay, thank you, Dorothy.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.